Hey guys, welcome back to DMAC Customs on the YouTube. Dave here in the garage, Area 51. Not working on that in this video. Working on this and this and maybe this, but I'm not sure what we can do with that. Let me doing a little bit of decorating. So the plan is like some cherry blossoms and that. Now this is a roll bar kind of backrest type thing for, I think it's an MX5 Mazda. It's a 16 valve double overhead cam unit. So I've got the rocker cover and the little roll bar thing and the steering wheel. Now this is a little project I'm doing for one of our club members. It's actually for his daughter, it's her car, and he just sort of dropped off these bits the other week for me to have a little paint around on. He did say he's not sure what I could do with the steering wheel, and I kind of am inclined to agree. There's not really much in the way I can do on it, because anything I do on the rim is just kind of going to get worn off. Anything I do on the chrome is probably going to chip off. Potentially, and the wee sort of center horn button has already got some cherry blossom stuff on it, so I'll probably just put that away, not do anything on that, because yeah, it kind of does need something, but I don't know what I could do, because yeah, guaranteed anything I paint on this is not going to stay. This is just like a plastic, it's not painted. Yeah, but yeah, so I'll probably ignore that and just concentrate on the valve cover and the roll bar, I think. Yeah, because I don't know what I could do with that. But anyway, I've got to get myself sort of situated where I can get to both ends of this roll bar so I can kind of paint on it. I need to mount it some way where I can kind of get to it easily. I don't know. Figure that out and we'll be back. Another note, you might notice the fly hat, DMAC Customs hat. Web store is up and running, so you know, head over there and have a look at some t-shirts and hats and stuff. That's all that's up there for now. But more importantly, we're a week later and my ear ride hasn't sunk at all. So I'm going to just quickly put some power to it and switch it on and have a look at the gauges and see where they are, where they're sitting, you know, compared to where I left it last week. So we definitely don't appear to have any leaks. That noise I heard last week must have just been my imagination. So I'll chuck some power on this and we'll have a quick look at the gauge and then we'll go and do some painting. Okay, so last week when I left it off, it was at 147 on the tank pressure, 69 on the fronts, 44 on the rears. So we've dropped 1 pound in the rears, we've dropped about 3-4 pounds in the front, but we'd lost a bit of pressure out of the tank. And something that I just noticed just now, I've got both the compressors hooked up and I could hear a little bit of a hiss, and I thought it was something to do with that second compressor, but it's actually something to do with my pressure release valve, this up here. It's super sensitive and it started leaking out of there when it got to about 120-130 pounds, and when I pushed it down it seals again. So but it's very sensitive, so I don't know how accurate that is because it's only at 130 pounds at the tank. It shouldn't be releasing until it gets to about 200. That thing's supposed to be rated at, so go figure. So I'll have to look into that, but on the upside it seems like all four corners are maintaining air pressure over the course of the week. So from the valve block to the four corners we're good. It's just something to do with that pressure release. I don't know whether it just, I don't know. I don't want to take it out, but something going on with it. But yeah, so pretty happy with that. Other than that valve, I don't know why that's releasing, because I mean, as it's trying to get up to 150 where the compressors will cut off, it starts hissing out of that valve, and so it basically will just leave the compressors running constantly because it won't get to its cut off, which is not good because then it'll burn out the compressors. So I'll have to figure that out. It may just be a faulty one, or it could be have a little bit of crap stuck in it, or a little bit of thread tape or something like that. But just thought I'd update you on that. Rubbers are still really stiff. Apparently it's these rubbers. I was doing a little bit of digging. The factory ones aren't solid rubber like this, so that's what holds them out. They're like a solid rubber, where the factory ones are more of that neoprene kind of thing. They're and they're hollow, so some people go about trimming them and all sorts of stuff. So I don't know how I'll address that, because this is not good, and that's getting held right out there. Whether it's something to do with these other rubbers. Yeah, I don't know. Some people say you just have to shut the door about 1,000 times and they'll bed in. Okay, so onto the project at hand. I've just got this bar kind of wrapped in a towel and kind of gently clamped in the vise. So I just got to kind of give everything a bit of a prep with some wax and grease remover. It should be okay, other than kind of handling marks. Just give it a bit of a wipe down anyway. Now my brief is to do some like a cherry blossom type thing coming up on either side of this roll bar, you know what I'm saying, and something on the rocker cover. I'm trying to figure out which is the front and which is the back on this roll bar, so I might have to do a little bit of googling and see if I can find which is which, you know. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do on this rocker cover. Something a little bit asymmetrical, since it's an asymmetrical cover, but on the sides here we'll probably do something pretty similar on either side. I'm not really too sure yet. We'll have a little bit of a sketch on there and see what we can come up with. Not a lot of kind of prep involved with this one, on paper that is. I'll maybe draw on one side, maybe trace it off, or whether I just kind of jump back and forth and yeah, replicate it just kind of by hand, by eye sort of thing. But yeah, I just got to do a little bit of googling and try and figure out which is the front and which is the back on this. I think that might be the back, but I'll have a look. Okay, so done some googling, and by the looks of it, that tab is at the back. So yeah, this is the front. Mazda Miata is what they call them in America and stuff. In other countries over here we just seem to call them an MX5, but yeah, quite common for LS swaps apparently in some parts of the world. I've seen one here that had a LS3 in it, jammed into this little thing. It was really well done. I spent way too much time looking at it. Honestly, it looked factory. It looked like it was supposed to be there, you know. Whoever done it had put some real thought into how they squeezed that thing in there. It was pretty well tucked in under the under the windscreen, but I don't know how you'd do any kind of maintenance or whatever on it. But I'm just trying to double check from a few different sources that it doesn't really matter, I guess, but because we are just going on the sides and probably trickle something up, maybe just up to around about here. But yeah, it's sort of, I don't know, I just feel like I need to know this before I get too carried away, if you know what I'm saying. There's about 400 different types of roll bar that can go in these things apparently. And here's me, I just want one that looks like this. I want a picture of one installed in the car. Yeah, so that, well, I don't know now. Oh, it's an M3 BMW. We'll be back. Okay, so that is the front that way. So I'm just gonna start kind of sketching out sort of Something like that. Alright, I'll tighten that up. Something like that. Now I've just got to repeat it on the other side, so I wonder if I should get some tracing paper, trace it off, make a more accurate kind of template. No, I'll think about that while I sketch something on here. What are we going to do? So come from maybe over here. Maybe something like that. Something like that. Okay, well I'll tighten that up kind of like I did here, and then we'll figure out how to transfer that over the other side. Doesn't have to be exactly the same, but just roughly the same kind of format. Alrighty, so got me some of this. This is actually frisket paper. I bought this for airbrushing years ago, thinking it was like a masking film, but I think it's actually just like a tracing book. So I don't know how people stick it to things when they're doing airbrushing and stuff with it. I'm gonna do this. It's gonna wanna do some stuff. Scissors. Need scissors. Masking tape. Alright. I might actually cut that down as narrow as I need it to go, so about that much off it. A bin. Whoa, it's just long enough. That should do us, I think. I'll just kind of get me a rough trace off of that so I can flip it over and make a tracing for it, you know, to transfer it onto the other side. Okay, so that's me, you know, rough map. So I'm gonna basically just transfer that onto the other side, onto this end, with some Sorrel paper, which I'll just put between this, and then I'll just draw over the top of it. So it's just to get everything roughly in the same place, that this is not going to be note for note perfectly symmetrical, like every brush stroke's not going to match. This is going to be done by hand, you know, by hand. So it's going to have some variances from side to side, but you can't look at both sides at the same time, so that'll be fine. And yeah, so I'm just going to grab some frisket paper, what's it called? Sorrel paper, and get this transferred over to the other side. Okay, so cut me a piece of Sorrel paper. I'll put that aside. It should be big enough. Yep. Didn't really check that before I cut it, so I'll put the rest of this away. As I've said in previous videos, I'm fairly new to this Sorrel paper. I've always in the past just used chalk or charcoal to make tracings. Basically do a drawing like this, rub the back of it with chalk or charcoal, depending on whether you're working on a light background or a dark background. And then you just draw back over the top of it. And we did thousands of them back in the day when I was an apprentice. Thousands of tracings like that. We did pretty much production work for some of the big trucking companies, where we just, you know, did all their fleet signage, and so we'd use the same tracing with dozens and dozens of them, and then we'd just make a new one when it got too worn out. Use pounce systems as well, but not on something like this. You know, if you're doing big letters, you can use a pounce wheel and then use a chalk bag. But for something small like this Sorrel paper is, pardon me, pretty good. From my limited experience with it so far, is that it is actually, it's a good product, and they use it for all sorts of stuff. But yeah, it leaves quite a nice crisp line for you to follow, sometimes too crisp if you're working with pale colours. So we'll see how this works. I'm not sure how I'm going to wrap this. I might have to take that on there and then lay that over the top once I can figure out all my positioning, or do I take that onto there? I don't know. Maybe we'll take this onto there. Okay, so got that kind of stuck on there. It doesn't want to sit there that well, so I've just got to now stick this over on the other side in roughly the same position as that. I've made all the cuts through the surround as well, where I kind of cut my little fillets in there to hopefully get it to lay down. Alright, so I'll stick it on the other side. If I centre that flower there, and then centre that top one, which should be kind of where we want to be for the most part, I think. Where's the end of my tape? It's about there. Oh, don't tear on me, dang nabbit. Okay, something like that. Push those down to draw them on. It should be alright. Alright, now just go over that with a pencil. Okay, so that's that on there. Kind of matches everything on the same, roughly the same kind of positioning, I reckon. Now, like I said, that's just my kind of basic rough out. I'm just going to kind of make it up as I go along. My kind of idea for the cherry blossoms on this is kind of a watercolory kind of vibe, but done in enamels, like done in one shot. Did think about airbrushing it, but tiny little flowers and that, I think it would just do my head in. You can get a nice result, and if you're extremely patient, but airbrushing is so labor intensive, and a lot of people don't realize how labor intensive it is, and it can take like days to do some little stuff, and you know, it's just finicky, you know what I'm saying? Yes, anyway, I've got to get some gear set up, paint, brushes, stuff like that, and kind of figure out a bit of a look, and maybe do a couple of little experimental flowers on a piece of something, just to see if I can actually achieve what I have got in my head, or whether I just hook straight into it and wing it. You know what I'm saying? Alright, so just cleaning my neat's foot oil out of my brushes, get all the oil out so I can not contaminate my paint. I've got 4 brushes out, which I think will be suitable for what I'm wanting to do today. I'm going to give this another run. It might be useful. This is a Steve Kafta synthetic. Now, I've used these before on my channel, and I struggled with them for what I was trying to use them for, and Steve piped up in the comments and gave me some suggestions as to how to kind of prep these brushes, these synthetic brushes, for, you know, use. And I do like the way they come to a nice point, and that might be what I really need for today, is for like a fine point. I've got this little, all the others are all AS Hanover pointed writers, so, and I've talked about these before. I didn't really like them for lettering, but I think they might be quite good for what I'm about to do. So hopefully we'll find a use for all of these brushes, and you know, get some use out of this little Kafta brush that I have struggled with in the past. Nothing wrong with the brush, it's just a different feel. So the brush, so we'll start having a bit of paint, mixed up some kind of a pale pink and then just some straight, what's that called? It's called magenta. It's not really what I'd call magenta, it's more of a dark pink, but we'll kind of use a bit of those. And yeah, we'll just have a little bit of play and paint some flowers on this stuff. So let's get at it. Okay, so that's the first pass. There's a little bit more sort of detail-y stuff kind of got to go in, but I'm going to go through and get all of the kind of pink flowers, you know, the main flowers kind of done on the other side of the valve cover and up this roll bar thing. I'll bring you in for different stages of it, I guess. It's slow and repetitive. So but that's my basic kind of format, just using couple of different pinks and a bit of white. I brought the white back in after the fact. I kind of felt it needed to kind of lighten up and soften up just a scotch. So there's a little bit of stuff to go on the inside. So it's kind of got that painterly feel. You would have seen me using the little bit of foam just to kind of stipple out some of the brush marks, just to kind of flatten it down a little bit. I didn't like the texture that was getting left behind by the brushes, you know what I'm saying. So carry on. I'll bring you back in when we get into sort of doing the little bitty bits and the stems and stuff like that. So I'll be back. Hey guys, so little update. That's the rocker cover flowers done. Now I'm going to move on to the roll bar. That. Okay, let's do it. Righty, so there's both sides. Floral is done, or cherry blossom flowers, you know, and the thing. So just gonna go and have a wee break, and we'll be coming back and either do the stems or the little bitty bits that go inside the flower. You know what I'm saying? So I have to think about that while I'm having a coffee. Alrighty, so coming back in with some little doodads that I've got to paint in here. Spindly bits on the inside of the flowers. I don't know what they're called, the little fingery things. You may have noticed by the time I got to this, I kind of changed my approach on how I was painting these flowers, sort of thing. So I mean, on the whole, it's not really that different, but I just kind of fluked it when I did that flower there. I kind of did a little thing where it's just like, wow, that's heaps easier, and gets the kind of blendy result that I was after. It's a bit more like an oil painting rather than a watercolor, which my initial idea was having it quite transparent and watercolory and stuff, but yeah, enamel paints, once you start and I always work loading things up, same when I'm doing tattoos and stuff. But next up is the stems, the stalks, stems. I'm not really sure how I'm going to do that, like color wise. I know what kind of look I'm after, but I was going to do them black, but I think I might go for a kind of a dirty green, like a dark green, quite washy, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'll mix something up and we'll have a little tuffy with it around it. Maybe a touch of brown in it. I did think about doing them brown, but I might put a greeny tinge, maybe a brownie with a bit of green. You know what I'm saying? I'll mix something up and I'll show you. Alright, so shit. Alright, so I almost had a big whoopsie. Part of the problem is cold hands, I can't feel anything. That's my green. Like, it's actually I just used a bit of this one shot dark green and a bit of one shot medium brown and chucked a little bit of black in it, so it's just sort of like I dirtied up the green a touch. And I'm going to use this Kafta number 2. This is a little scroller brush that I talked about earlier that I had trouble with kind of getting it to do what I wanted it to do, kind of pinstriping and stuff, but I think it might be like really good for this. I probably came across like I was critiquing it, like I said I wasn't sold on these synthetic brushes, but I think this might be the ticket for this. Yes, this is the brush for this. I've actually knocked back this paint quite a bit, so it's not thinned out, but it is kind of a bit thinner than what you would kind of want normally, and that's intentional because I want that streaky kind of green, dirty green kind of look. So it gives it a bit more of that, you know, what do you call it, painterly feel. Okay, so last job of the day is cleaning out all my brushes. Now I'm just using mineral turpentine to clean out the oil-based paint, and then I oil them with neat's foot oil, which is often used in leather care, like for saddlery and stuff like that. There's a waterproofing and suppling, softening stuff. I love the smell of it for some reason. It's really nostalgic. It took me a while to find it. Actually, I actually found it on Trade Me here in New Zealand. There's a saddlery place. I can't remember where they are, but they sell it by the litre, and that'll last me the rest of my life. Well, not that, but the whole litre, hopefully. I'll last longer than that. Yeah, so just kind of giving everything a good clean. I've already cleaned them out once, and I've changed out my turpentine, and I've cleaned them out again. Some folk like to clean them out in hot soapy water or warm soapy water afterwards. I don't. I just do them in terps, shake them out. These little ones, there's no point kind of doing that. And then oil them. So I didn't actually use all of the brushes I've just cleaned out, but I thought I'll just clean them all out again anyway. The main brushes I used are that one there, which is a AS Hanover pointed writer. It's a number 4. For the little stuff I was using, I think it was that one, which is a chisel writer 00. And I was using, to start with, this little sucker here, but the ends of the bristles have gone all weird on me. I don't know whether it's been sitting funny in my toolbox, but the very ends of the bristles are like that. So I don't know if you'll be able to see it. I'll try and show you. I don't know if you can see that on the camera. Hopefully it'll focus on there. I can't tell. But yeah, the ends of the bristles have kind of like stepped over, and it was kind of go like that. So it's almost like it's got a little bit of fluff stuck to it, but it's not. It's actually just the ends of the bristles have kicked over. I'm not really sure if I can trim it or whether I just need to kind of keep using it on coarser paint, hopefully wear them down. And yeah, so I kind of switched out. Did I use that? I don't think I did. That's where is it? It's another AS Hanover, but I can't see what size it is. Series 2102. No, number 1. Yeah, so I think that's just like a little sort of chiseled writer as well, short-haired. And then finally my Kafta number 2. I can't remember. I think these are like a little scrollers or something. I can't remember what the actual definition is, but these are a synthetic. All of the AS Hanover are all pure red sable, whereas this is a synthetic bristle or hair that's on it. I wouldn't say bristle, it's too fine for that. In the past I've tried using, I've got 2 of these, 2 different sizes, and in the past I've tried using them and I didn't like them for what I was using them for at the time, because I found they kind of pulled the inside of the line out, which, and I found them too stiff. But then I think they have actually softened up a bit. They've been sitting for a while in neat's foot oil, and I did, as Steve Kafta actually commented, he said clean them out with lacquer thinners, which I did. I cleaned them with lacquer thinners, and that kind of softened them up a little bit, I think, and that was perfect for what I wanted it to do on the stems of all these flowers and stuff. I just wanted it, with the paint kind of thinned out a bit, I wanted it to kind of this sounds really shit, but I don't mean it like this, but I wanted it to pull the guts of the line out. I wanted a kind of heavy loading and then kind of pull it out and thin it out, and it kind of did that, I guess, but it gave me the effect that I was after. So although I've said in the past I struggled with these and I wasn't 100% sold on the synthetic stuff, this did exactly what I wanted it to do. So it is still a good brush to have in your toolbox, now that I know what I like it for, you know, that sort of thing. I actually think as well, I was probably trying to do two heavier lines with it on the last little project that I used it on, which I think it was a motorbike tank or something. So I was trying to kind of pull a, you know, heavier line, whereas I think I need to stay on the tip of that brush rather than kind of, you know, get any kind of like pressure down on it. I think I need to stay on the tip like that sort of thing with those brushes. So, you know, haven't had a lot of experience with synthetic brushes, but I think those ones, yeah, do have a place, definitely, and I'll be using it again. You know, you've got to keep trying them. If it doesn't work, you know, if a brush doesn't work for what you want it or thought you wanted it for, you know, try it on something else. You know, have just experiment and play around with it, and you never know, you might find the perfect project for it. You know, same with these pointed writers from AS Hanover. I don't particularly like them for kind of lettering that is kind of struck, you know, like got sharp corners and hard edges. They're probably quite good for scripty or even sort of looser freestyle, freehand sort of stuff. But for, you know, for doing more structured lettering, you know, like that, what is that, impact or whatever, you know, that kind of style where you want sharp corners and stuff like that, I find a chiseled writer is better for that sort of thing. But yeah, so that's the brushes I used. I'm going to put them all away now. Okay, so there we have it. That's my little project for today done. All wet on wet. One shot enamels, and the white I actually is just a normal kind of like hardware enamel, you know, from the hardware store sort of thing. I didn't want to use my one shot white because it covers too well. I actually wanted it kind of thinner, more transparent, but it didn't really pan out that way anyway, but it doesn't matter. So that's that all done. I just got to leave it to kind of fully cure up before I can kind of come back in and give it a little bit of a clean up, take off my kind of pencil marks and stuff like that. And so, but it's cold, so it's going to need probably a couple of days to kind of really sort of set up before I kind of hit it with any kind of polish or anything like that. Not buff polish, but just to clean the pencil marks off is what we normally use. Just a little bit of automotive thing like turtle wax. So I use a one called silicon glaze, which is ironically an Amway one, which I've had for about 25 years. But yeah, so she's all done. Kind of asymmetrical, symmetrical kind of vibe that hopefully the young lady whose Mazda this is going on will like that. I kind of did the pinks a little darker because if you do them kind of too pale, as they often are, like on the actual trees, they would have just disappeared on these white parts, if you know what I mean. So, you know, they're not photorealistic, obviously, they're a painterly vibe. But yeah, it's all done. So that's where I'm going to leave this video. Next week we should be back on the old Area 51 doing something. I don't know quite what yet. Plenty to do. I don't know. We'll figure something out. Waiting on a couple of bits and pieces to come in to hopefully sort of, you know, give me something to do on that. But yeah, so don't forget we're on the Instagram and on the Facebook, and as always, thanks heaps for watching. And don't forget we've got dmatcustoms.com where all you get all the DMAT Customs merch. It's the official merchandise. Don't buy any of that Temu DMAT Customs stuff because like it's not legit. You know, the only legit stuff you can get is from dmatcustoms.com, not .ru or .ch or anything like that, .com. Yeah, it's the real deal. So we got t-shirts as you've seen last week, and the caps like this, you know, the multi-fit caps because they work backwards as well. But yeah, so if you haven't subscribed at this point, subscribe, like, share, comment, and until next week, take it easy and peace. Dirty hands.